Princess Diana's funeral, the royal family is returning to London, hoping in perhaps to quell some of the criticism of their actions since Diana's death.
A hidden vault beneath Windsor Castle has been unsealed, revealing Queen Elizabeth's final, binding commands regarding Princess Diana's legacy. The handwritten decree transfers absolute control of Diana's historic archives and personal treasures directly to Catherine, Princess of Wales. This secret document places a permanent ban on Queen Camilla using the historic collection, blinding Clarence House. As lawyers scramble to enforce the late monarch's final wishes, the inner circle faces a decision that permanently rewrites royal history. The sealed cabinet, a heavy steel drill bit into the brass lock of a green metal filing cabinet. The cabinet sat in the corner of room 4B in the basement of Windsor Castle. This basement room lies directly beneath the state apartments. A senior locksmith from the Royal Household Engineering Division backed away as the lock cylinder finally snapped. Two legal representatives from the High Court of Justice stepped forward. They wore blue plastic protective shoe covers. One representative reached into the open drawer and pulled out a thick leather folder tied with a faded green silk ribbon. The folder contained a final legal addendum to the private estate of Queen Elizabeth II. The document was signed on the 14th of August, 2022. It consisted of 6 typed pages with extensive handwritten notes in the margins. The text dealt exclusively with the residual personal archives and physical wardrobe assets of the late Diana, Princess of Wales. These items had remained in a gray legal area since the conclusion of the official probate process in the late 1990s. The legal mechanism used in this document was a restricted codicil. Under the sovereign's private property laws, personal items left behind by deceased family members can be grouped into an independent custodial trust. This specific trust bypassed the standard executors of the central royal will. The document transferred the absolute curation rights of Diana's personal effects to an independent board. Catherine was named as the perpetual chair of this board, giving her individual veto power over the public use of Diana's name and likeness. The atmosphere inside the basement room turned tense when the lawyers turned to the second page of the document. A red stamp at the top read, "Not for public disclosure." The late Queen had included a highly specific restriction regarding the ceremonial deployment of the family jewelry collection. The text explicitly banned Queen Camilla from ever requesting or wearing any piece of jewelry that was formally presented to Diana during her tenure as Princess of Wales. This included several iconic sapphire brooches and the famous Cambridge Lovers' knot tiara. This structural restriction removed an immense amount of ceremonial authority from Clarence House. In the royal court, the choice of jewelry for a state dinner is a primary tool for projecting power and continuity. By locking Camilla out of the Diana collection, the late Queen drew a permanent line between the current Queen consort and the legacy of the mother of the future king. The decision meant that Camilla's public appearance would always remain visually separated from the most popular era of modern royal history. The paperwork was loaded into a secure digital scanner by 4 that afternoon. A secure copy was transmitted directly to the private office of Prince William at Kensington Palace. The timing of the discovery was highly problematic for the palace communications team. They were in the middle of planning a major retrospective exhibition for the King's upcoming Autumn Jubilee. The new legal reality meant that any inclusion of Diana's historical material inside the exhibition would now require a formal licensing agreement signed by Catherine's legal team. The tension became practical when the master of the household attempted to move 3 historic trunk cases out of the Windsor vault. The trunks contained Diana's private correspondence, including letters to overseas heads of state during the 1980s. Catherine's personal security officer intervened at the vault entrance. He presented a copy of the new codicil, forcing the transport team to leave the trunks inside the secure room. The trunks were locked with new biometric seals, and the access codes were transferred exclusively to Kensington Palace. The reason for the late Queen's sudden legal intervention at the end of her life introduced a major mystery. For years, the palace maintained that all matters regarding Diana's estate had been fully settled by her brother, Earl Spencer, and the official executors. The discovery of this hidden Windsor cabinet proved that a significant portion of her personal legacy had been held back by the crown. The Queen had waited for a moment of absolute privacy to place these items beyond the reach of the standard royal administration. The puzzle was resolved by a close look at the cross-referenced files from the Duchy of Cornwall. In the spring of 2022, a major international television network had approached the palace with a proposal for a multi-part documentary series focusing on Diana's philanthropic work. The king's advisors had been open to the project, viewing it as a way to manage the historical narrative. The late Queen, however, wanted to prevent any commercial exploitation of her former daughter-in-law's memory. She created the Independent Trust to ensure that the curation of Diana's life would remain strictly a family matter, managed by the individual she trusted most to protect the future crown. This independent strategy opened an even larger question regarding the status of Princess Charlotte. The fourth page of the document contained a specific clause that looked 20 years into the future. It detailed the exact process for the permanent transfer of the primary Spencer-Windsor family jewels. The text laid out a timeline that would bypass the current generation entirely, establishing a direct line of inheritance between the late Princess of Wales and her only granddaughter. The legal team finalized the verification of the signatures by 6 p.m. The document was valid, active, and legally unassailable. The financial and historical assets were moved out of the General Palace inventory, and Catherine was officially established as the sole custodian of the legacy. The chapter closed with William preparing a formal briefing pack for his father. The king was currently staying at Sandringham, completely unaware that a green metal cabinet in a Windsor basement had just permanently altered the ceremonial structure of his court. The midnight transfer. 2 unmarked black transit vans backed up to the sovereign's entrance of the Windsor vaults at precisely 1 a.m. Rain bounced off the metal roofs of the vehicles. A small squad of armed officers from the Royalty Protection Command stood in a semicircle, their flashlights pointed toward the concrete ramp. A heavy motorized forklift slowly emerged from the underground passage, carrying a pallet stacked with 6 oversized metal transit cases. Each case was painted olive green and bore a stenciled white inventory number from the Lord Chamberlain's 1997 storage log. The physical inventory inside these cases represented the private, uncurated life of Diana, Princess of Wales. The contents included over 400 personal cassette recordings, dozens of family photo albums that had never been seen by the public, and 3 trunks of personal clothing from her private wardrobe. Under standard royal protocol, these items were supposed to be integrated into the Royal Archives at Round Tower after a 30-year cooling-off period. The new codicil tore up that timeline completely. It ordered the immediate relocation of the entire archive to a secure private holding facility on the grounds of Anmer Hall in Norfolk. The legal reality of this move created a permanent operational barrier between the official royal historians and Diana's private thoughts. By moving the archive to Norfolk, William and Catherine took the material entirely out of the jurisdiction of the state archivists. The official researchers who write the authorized biographies of the royal family would no longer have an automatic right of access to these files. Any future book, documentary, or historical exhibition would require a formal copyright license issued exclusively by Catherine's new trust board. The tension turned concrete when a senior official from the Royal Archives arrived at the loading bay with a signed counter order from Buckingham Palace. He argued that the late Queen's personal papers could not legally leave a royal palace without a formal warrant signed by the current keeper of the archives. William's personal security chief walked over to the official and handed him a certified copy of the High Court registration from that morning. The registration proved that the trust had already taken physical and legal possession of the inventory numbers. The archivist was forced to step aside, and the loading continued in silence. This brings us to a major historical mystery within the collection. The inventory log for case number 4 contained a significant discrepancy. The original 1997 packing list mentioned a leather-bound journal containing Diana's personal notes from her historic trip to Angola. When the legal team opened the case to verify the contents before loading, the journal was missing from its designated velvet slot. In its place sat a sealed manila envelope containing a modern digital security token and a short typewritten index page. The mystery of the missing journal was resolved during a frantic secure phone call between William's legal advisor and the bank manager at Coates in London. The late Queen had removed the journal from the Windsor vaults 5 months before her passing. She had placed it inside a high-security safe deposit box at the bank's Strand branch, completely separate from the rest of the estate. The modern digital token inside the envelope contained the encryption codes needed to open that specific box, and the index page named Catherine as the only individual authorized to collect it. The reason for this extreme layer of security became clear when the legal advisors reviewed the index page's summary notes. The journal did not just contain thoughts on charity work. It included names and private contact details of several international political figures who had offered Diana private asylum and financial backing during her final year in Paris. The late Queen knew that if these names ever leaked into the public domain through a routine archival release, it would trigger a massive diplomatic scandal involving several current allied governments. By locking the journal behind a digital token and giving it to Catherine, she ensured that the material would remain a permanent state secret. The vans were fully loaded by 3 in the morning. The convoy left the Windsor gates under a full police escort, bypassing the standard public highways to use a secure military transit route toward Norfolk. The logistics were handled with the same level of security usually reserved for the transport of nuclear materials or foreign heads of state. The palace wanted no opportunity for a security breach, and they wanted the entire archive safely locked inside the Norfolk facility before the morning press briefings began in London. This sudden movement introduced a new crisis for King Charles's administrative team. The king had recently authorized a major charity auction of historic royal garments to fund his new environmental initiatives, and his advisors had planned to include 2 of Diana's iconic evening gowns in the catalog to drive up the bidding prices. The sudden midnight transfer meant those gowns were now legally unavailable. The charity committee had to pull the listings from the pre-sale documentation, leaving them with a significant financial shortfall in their autumn fundraising targets. The day ended with the convoy arriving at the secure Norfolk facility, just as the sun began to rise over the North Sea. The metal cases were unloaded into a climate-controlled vault that had been prepared inside a converted stable block at Anmer Hall. Catherine's private archivist took the master manifest and began the long process of cross-checking every item against the late Queen's handwritten notes. The legal lines were now completely finalized, the physical assets were secure in Norfolk, and the keys to Diana's ultimate legacy were firmly in Catherine's pocket. The next phase of the confrontation was about to play out within the private offices of Clarence House, where Queen Camilla's staff was preparing a furious response to the realization that they had been permanently stripped of their ceremonial rights. The Camilla Red Line Queen. Camilla's personal assistant slammed a printed morning brief onto the white marble countertop of the Clarence House dressing room. It was exactly 8:15. A silver tray carrying fresh coffee and a basket of toast remained untouched by the sofa. Camilla was already dressed for a charity reception at the Guildhall. She picked up the 2-page document, her eyes focusing instantly on the section marked with a yellow highlighter. The brief contained a memo from the High Court executors, confirming that the late Queen's Diana codicil was fully active. The document laid out a rigid set of rules that completely prohibited the current Queen consort from ever accessing the Spencer-Windsor jewelry pool. The legal document was exceptionally precise. It did not merely request compliance. It listed 24 specific historical items by their official state inventory numbers. The list included the famous diamond and sapphire cluster brooch given to Diana by the Queen Mother, as well as the delicate emerald strand necklace from the Delhi Durbar collection. The codicil stated that these pieces were now held in an independent protective trust under Catherine's individual authority. The master of the jewel house was legally bound to reject any requisition form for these items that did not bear Catherine's signature. This development caused an immediate operational crisis for Camilla's styling team. For over 6 months, they had been working with an international fashion house to coordinate a wardrobe for an upcoming European state visit. The centerpiece of the opening nightgown was a historic pearl choker with a massive sapphire clasp that Diana had worn frequently during the 1980s. The dress had been tailored to match the exact dimensions of that specific necklace. With the new trust rules in place, the styling team had to cancel the shipment of the dress and find an alternative piece of jewelry from the Minor family safes. The tension within Clarence House shifted from administrative confusion to open anger by mid-morning. Camilla's private secretary called an emergency meeting with the king's constitutional lawyers in the ground floor morning room. He demanded to know if the late queen's directive violated the traditional rights of a reigning queen consort under the Regency Acts. The lawyers spent 40 minutes reviewing the text before delivering a crushing assessment. Because the late queen had categorized the Diana collection as private, non-state heritage property, she possessed the absolute right to dictate its future custody. The king could not intervene without challenging his own mother's private will. This brings us to a major historical mystery surrounding the collection's long-term preservation. The lawyers noticed that a significant item was missing from the highlighted list of banned jewelry. The famous Spencer tiara, which Diana wore on her wedding day, was completely omitted from the legal text. This omission seemed bizarre, given that the tiara is the most globally recognized symbol of Diana's royal identity. Palace archivists assumed the late queen had simply forgotten to include it during her final revisions at Balmoral. The mystery was resolved by a quick consultation with the estate managers at Althorpe House, the ancestral home of the Spencer family. The Spencer tiara does not belong to the crown, nor did it ever belong to Diana personally. It is an heirloom of the Spencer family estate, currently held under the strict custody of Diana's brother, Earl Spencer. The late queen had omitted it because she had no legal right to dictate its use. However, a separate private letter attached to the codicil revealed that the late queen had secured a formal, binding agreement with Earl Spencer before her passing. The agreement stipulated that the Spencer family would never loan the tiara to any member of the royal family unless the request came directly from Prince William or Catherine. The late queen had successfully created a double legal lock. She secured the crown-owned Diana pieces through her own private trust, and she secured the family-owned Spencer pieces through a private pact with Diana's brother. Camilla was effectively cut off from both sides of the historical legacy, ensuring that her public image would remain completely separated from the memory of her predecessor. The fallout from this discovery began to impact the daily routine of the Clarence House staff. Two senior dressers who had worked for the family since the late 90s were quietly reassigned to other duties after a heated argument over the missing sapphire necklace. The palace atmosphere grew increasingly cold as the staff realized that the future queen held absolute veto power over the current queen consort's public appearance. A clear division emerged between the courtiers who answered to the king and those who saw that the ultimate authority was moving to Kensington Palace. The day concluded with an uncomfortable scene during a pre-arranged lunch at Windsor Castle. King Charles and Queen Camilla arrived in separate vehicles, meeting William and Catherine in the private dining room of the state apartments. Staff members reported that the conversation remained strictly limited to routine family updates and weather reports. The blue portfolio containing the High Court decree sat on a side table by the door, a silent reminder that the traditional structure of the court had been dismantled. The legal lines were now completely absolute. The physical assets were safely locked away in Norfolk, and the authority was verified. The current queen consort was forced to accept a court where her style choices were governed by her daughter-in-law. The next phase of the crisis was already brewing across the ocean, where Prince Harry's legal representatives were preparing a furious response to the news that their own access to his mother's legacy had been legally blocked. The California notification Prince Harry sat on the outdoor patio of his home in Montecito, holding a secure iPad. The screen displayed a watermarked PDF copy of the Windsor Codicil. The document had been forwarded to his personal email by his senior estate lawyer in Los Angeles. A glass of iced water sat melting on the table next to him. The morning sun was bright, but the legal reality on the screen was incredibly dark. The text of his grandmother's final directive formally decoupled the physical custody of Diana's archives from the standard family inheritance. The document arrived with a strict cover letter from the High Court executors. It stated that the financial division of Princess Diana's residual estate would remain exactly as settled in the late 1990s. Harry would continue to receive his half share of any liquid royalties or fund distributions. However, the legal addendum drew a sharp, immovable line regarding the physical objects, letters, and public exhibition rights. The text named Catherine as the perpetual managing trustee of the physical assets, meaning Harry no longer possessed the right to authorize a public display or publication of his mother's personal effects. This distinction introduced an immediate financial and professional crisis for the Sussex's production company. The couple had recently signed a preliminary deal with an American streaming platform to produce a documentary focusing on Diana's global humanitarian crusade. The production schedule relied heavily on using high-resolution scans of Diana's private journals and unseen family letters. The new trust rules meant that the streaming platform's legal department could not clear the project for production without a signed licensing release form from Kensington Palace. Catherine held the pen. The tension turned concrete at 10 in the morning when Harry called his London legal team. He wanted to know if the trust violated his rights under the original 1997 divorce settlement terms between his parents. His lead barrister spent 30 minutes explaining the constitutional hierarchy of the document. Because the items had been stored within a sovereign palace under the late Queen's personal security jurisdiction, they were classified as private monarchical deposits. The late Queen had the absolute right to allocate the custody of those deposits to any individual she chose. This brings us to a major regulatory mystery within the document's index. The California legal team noticed that case number 5, which contained Diana's private tape recordings, was listed under a separate, highly unusual legal classification called a sovereign restraining trust. This specific classification meant that the contents could not be moved, copied, or listened to by anyone without the unanimous consent of the entire trust board. Palace investigators had previously assumed these tapes were lost during the chaotic cleanup of Kensington Palace in late August of 1997. The mystery of the missing tapes was resolved by a confidential memo found in the files of the late Queen's personal private solicitor. The late Queen had personally ordered the removal of the cassette tapes from Diana's apartment hours before the public funeral service. She had placed them under a permanent state secrecy shield to prevent their contents from being subpoenaed during the various international police investigations into the Paris accident. By moving them into the new independent trust, she ensured they would remain permanently sealed away from the media, while placing the keys in Catherine's hands. The reason for this extreme caution was directly tied to the upcoming anniversary of the Paris tragedy. An independent American media group had been preparing a civil lawsuit in London to force the disclosure of all remaining private royal correspondence from that period, using freedom of information laws. The creation of the independent trust completely neutralized this legal threat. Under British law, assets held within a private family trust established by a monarch are entirely exempt from public freedom of information requests. The late Queen had built a permanent legal shield around her family's secrets. This sudden movement introduced a new wave of panic among the Sussex's commercial advisors in Los Angeles. They had spent months pitching a new book project that would explore the hidden chapters of Diana's final years, relying on the assumption that Harry could eventually claim his share of the physical archive. With the archive now legally locked inside the secure facility in Norfolk, the project was completely dead. The publishers quietly withdrew their initial financial offers, leaving the California household with a significant hole in their projected revenue streams for the upcoming fiscal year. The day ended with a quiet, tense email exchange between Harry's personal representative and Prince William's private secretary. The California team requested a temporary private viewing of the Angola Journal for family research purposes. The response from London arrived less than an hour later. The request was formally denied, citing the strict operational guidelines laid down by the late Queen. The door was firmly shut. The legal lines were now completely absolute. The physical assets were secure in Norfolk, and the authority was fully verified. The California branch of the family was forced to accept a reality where they were permanently separated from the physical heritage of their own mother. The next phase of the crisis was already moving back to the United Kingdom, where King Charles was preparing to confront his son over the massive disruption this secret document had caused within his own court. The Sandringham Paradox. King Charles sat in a high-backed leather chair in the long library at Sandringham House. He stared at a crackling log fire. The mantelpiece clock ticked loudly against the quiet of the room. Prince William sat on the sofa opposite him, unzipping a heavy waterproof folder. He pulled out 3 documents stamped with the seal of the High Court. He placed them directly onto the small table between their chairs. The king did not reach for them immediately. He adjusted his glasses and looked at his son. The documents detailed a formal, binding agreement between the late Queen and Earl Spencer. It was finalized on the 10th of August, 2022. The text established a permanent joint custody framework for Diana's remaining physical heritage. Under British common law, the estate of a deceased individual is typically managed by their immediate executors. However, this specific contract utilized an ancient property clause linked to royal residences. It classified Diana's archives as sovereign deposits, placing them entirely outside standard estate administration. This structural move took all administrative leverage away from the king. Charles had spent the last several months coordinating a public relations strategy for the upcoming court season. His team wanted to include several of Diana's letters in a commemorative book to demonstrate family unity. The discovery of this contract halted the project instantly. The late Queen's agreement explicitly required written permission from the Independent Trust Board for any public reproduction of the text. Catherine held the sole authority to block the publication. The tension escalated when William pointed to the 3rd page of the agreement. A clause typed in red ink detailed the management of the Althorpe burial site archive. For years, the public believed that all private visitor logs and letters left at the island estate were handled exclusively by the Spencer family. The document revealed that a secondary copy of every single document had been sent to Windsor for safekeeping. The late Queen had quietly integrated these files into the new protective trust. This brings us to a major question regarding the motive behind this hidden collection. Why did the late Queen create a joint custody framework with the Spencer family without informing her own son? The answer was found in a series of private legal memos sent between Balmoral and Althorpe during that final summer. The late Queen wanted to prevent any future attempt by Clarence House to re-edit or minimize Diana's role in the official history of the monarchy. She knew that a direct, independent link between the Spencers and Catherine was the only way to ensure the memory remained fully protected. The king's private solicitor arrived at the library at noon. He spent 30 minutes analyzing the signatures on the contract. He verified that the document was completely unassailable. He noted a secondary stipulation that had not been included in the initial palace briefing. The text stated that if any court official attempted to challenge the trust's jurisdiction, the absolute ownership of the entire physical archive would automatically default to Earl Spencer. The palace simply could not risk a public court battle that would hand the materials back to the Spencer family completely. This revelation left the king's administrative team in a position of complete vulnerability. They had spent weeks designing an exhibition that relied on the cooperation of the Lord Chamberlain's office. They now realized that the office no longer held the keys to the relevant vaults. Every photograph, every textile, and every personal diary was legally locked inside the secure facility in Norfolk. The king was forced to accept a new reality, where his own mother had successfully restricted his control over his own family history. The puzzle deepened when the solicitor uncovered a financial ledger attached to the back of the agreement. The ledger showed a substantial endowment fund established by the late Queen using her private Scottish revenues. The fund was designed to cover the perpetual maintenance and security costs of the Norfolk facility. This meant that Catherine did not have to rely on the general palace budget or the sovereign grant to preserve the archive. The trust was entirely self-funding, making it completely independent of any financial pressure from Buckingham Palace. The meeting at Sandringham concluded at 2 p.m. The king remained in his chair, staring at the cooling embers of the fire. William packed the documents back into the waterproof folder and left the room without making any further comment. The power dynamic within the court had been permanently reordered. The late Queen's final wishes had successfully created a permanent alliance between Kensington Palace and the Spencer family, ensuring that the next generation would hold absolute control over the historical narrative long before the current reign concluded. A princess's true heir, the legal team inside the secure Norfolk facility turned to the final page of the Windsor codicil just after 3 in the afternoon. This section of the document looked decades into the future, bypassing current family disputes to establish a direct line of succession for the most personal pieces of Princess Diana's inheritance. The text explicitly named Princess Charlotte as the sole ultimate heir to the core Spencer-Windsor jewelry collection. This instruction went far beyond a standard sentimental wish. It was codified as a mandatory inheritance trigger that activates automatically upon Charlotte's 18th birthday. The legal mechanism ensures that the iconic Spencer tiara, alongside several highly private diamond sets currently held in the Norfolk Vault, cannot be claimed, loaned, or reallocated by any other member of the royal family. The late Queen had constructed a precise legal pipeline that entirely skipped over the current generation's court rivalries. By making Catherine the managing trustee and Charlotte the ultimate owner, the document effectively locked the physical symbols of Diana's legacy into the future line of the throne, completely out of reach from both Clarence House and California. The final touching sentence of the handwritten note explained the late monarch's core reasoning. She wrote that the true spirit of a legacy does not belong to the state or to commercial media campaigns, but to the children who carried the bloodline forward. The long constitutional chess game was officially over. The late Queen had successfully built an airtight legal fortress around the memory of her former daughter-in-law, placing the ultimate keys to modern royal history firmly into the hands of the next generation. The unsealing of the Windsor cabinet has done more than just reveal hidden treasures. It has permanently altered the visual power structure of the British monarchy. Queen Elizabeth II has delivered her final, binding verdict from beyond the grave, ensuring that Princess Diana's memory will be protected exclusively by Catherine and her children.